swagger, okay? Regardless of what happens out there. Doesn't matter. Keep your swagger.
Hey, welcome into the Fivehole Fantasy Hockey Podcast. I'm your host tonight, Alan, and here with me is the incredible Beebs Bondy from DFO Fantasy, always posting just really useful and incredible content on Twitter. So yeah, man, like I said before the show, I'm going to ask, like, how you doing in all your leagues? I'm sure you're in a ton, like at least the ones you want to talk about.
Yeah, no, it's great. For one, thank you for having me, and what an intro there. I was going to say, kind of takes one to know one as someone who posts fantastic content out there. It's also nice to be in a spot where I won't be judged for admitting that I'm in 7 leagues this year. Which is, I kept it a little humble. It used to be double digits, so we took it down a little bit. In the 7, I will admit I believe I have first place locked in 4 of 7, and then 1, I'm just on the fringe of the playoff. The other 2 were right in the playoffs. But the leagues can I have one league it's about an 80-man roster, 32 teams in it, salary cap league. More for research, but it's fun. That one, that's the one we're doing the worst in. It's just really hard to keep up. Then other than that, I got the basic sized ones.
I don't even know how you do that. Like, that is 80 players. You're digging really deep.
I actually, I find myself going to junior hockey games and I'm watching guys that I have on my team, which is just, I'm like, oh, I have that, which is pretty wild because they might not even make the show. So it really allows me to kind of broaden my horizon, and it's cool, but it's a lot. I will admit that.
Awesome. But yeah, we are here tonight to do the opposite of what everyone else is doing. Everyone's just talking about who to pick up, including us here at Fivehole. We don't really touch on guys that maybe we should drop, and that's where this episode comes in. We want to talk about some players that are still very owned, maybe shouldn't be when we're talking about the seasons on the line. And then, of course, as when we talk about playoffs, we mean weeks 22 to 24, take you through the rest of the season. But first up, my favorite punching bag, Elias Pettersson. He's dropped. Like, he's still a very nicely 69% owned. And while he's not having a huge deviation from last season, due to somehow pacing lower at an 82-game pace than last season, Senior Corsi says that place tilted against him. Like, his Corsi 4 on the season is 45.6. Last year, he at least had like a decent supporting cast. But I mean, who's going to help him score now? Like 35-point Evander Kane, half a point per game, Brock Besser. I'd argue, depending on league depth, like a 55, 60-point player is replacement level. Like, I don't know, Beebs, if you feel the same way.
That's a key quote I'm always bringing out over on our show is basically that if a guy's hovering around 50, 55 for a year, you can find that in the free agency at any time. And Elias Pettersson's kind of been exactly that. I was one of the, we'll call it dummies, who kind of thought the bounce back was happening this year. And then unfortunately, just with the team around him, that hasn't happened, and it's kind of gotten even worse than anyone could imagine. But what kind of blows my mind here with Elias Pettersson is him still being 69% owned. He only has 18 points in his last 34 games. You extrapolate that across 82 games, that's a 43-point pace across the season. There's guys out there that are, 43 points that's absolutely laughable. So for a guy like this to, things aren't looking better. The schedule is not looking much better going forward. He's also a minus 15 plus minus during those 34 games. He only has 59 shots. That's under 2 per game. Just things are not great there right now. And if you haven't, gotten behind the 8 ball yet and dropped him, now's certainly the time. As you mentioned, he is a punching bag, but for good reason. We don't want to, punch on a guy like this. He's a fantastic player to the eye test when he does his flashy things, but he's absolutely burned us 2 straight years here in fantasy. Not as bad as last year, but we're getting to that point where you can easily let him go, and I don't think you're going to be putting him in on a heavy night anyways if you have him there.
No. And yeah, like, I've actually had a few questions lately, and those, like, funny enough, like, they're like, yeah, I'm looking at dropping these guys. Elias Pettersson is like almost every time one of those options. But yeah, do you want to grab the next one, or?
Yeah, absolutely. So our next one is that some people are gonna be upset about this.
These are hot takes. Like,
yeah, these are absolutely. And honestly, these are the plays you have to make in fantasy hockey to win your matchup. You have to make the bold choices sometimes. Bold but smart. That's how I'd put it, and that's what we're here for. But it's Alex Ovechkin, the grade 8 out in Washington, currently at 96% ownership. He has, before tonight, of course, disclaimer here, he had 0 points in his last 6 games played. He's obviously affected by the John Carlson leaving situation. We saw what happened in the media. He came out there and said it was the worst day of his life, I believe was the quote, which was pretty crazy. Maybe not that exact quote, but it was something like that. And I mean, he hasn't put up a point since until tonight. Maybe the addition of the Hudson brother there will help him out a little bit. But for now, Ovi's just not the guy we thought he was, or the same guy that he has been for the last 20 years. But he's also 40 years old, so can't really blame him. He has 51 points, only 24 goals in 68 games this year. That's the same kind of value as you're getting from Anthony Mantha, if you want to put it that way. And if you're content with dropping Anthony Mantha right now, then you're content with dropping Alex Ovechkin. It's the same type of production minus the shots, obviously. But I know that you have some more points here on Ovi.
I would definitely say we're not dropping Anthony Mantha right now.
No.
Especially the next few weeks here. But yeah, I mean, lowest 82 game pace in his career, 60 points. That's even lower than 2 seasons ago when it looked like he imploded when he had 65 points in 79 games. But yeah, looking at the schedule, 11 games in weeks 22 to 24. That's tied with the fewest, and most of them are on the road. But really, your bread and butter for Ovi, like that top power play unit, is supposed to be out getting him the puck, and it's in the bottom 10, both on the season and since the Olympics. And while not the lowest percentages in his career, it's been toward the bottom for his IPP and power play IPP. And again, for those of you not in the know, that is, if someone scores a goal, you either scored the goal or got in on it somehow. And his shooting's down almost a full shot a game, 3 shots per 60. For those of you who love your per 60 from last season.
No, it's spot on. It's almost like, it's these guys on these teams that aren't necessarily making a playoff push. It sounds bad because sometimes you might find some gems in the rough there, but sometimes as well, some of these superstars, you kind of see them fade off as the year goes. We've seen it happen to some of the Toronto guys as well out there as the years kind of gone by. And that's just unfortunate, but that's kind of happening in Washington this year. It's something new. We've never really dealt with it.
Yeah.
So it had to happen.
Yeah. And then next up, this one hurts me. Victor Hedman, 89% owned. He's only got 4 points in 15 games going back to December 6th. And that power play one is not coming back unless Radish is out. And even then, I feel like they might weaken at Bernie's him just for that shot. He's clapping 90-mile-an-hour bombs from the blue line.
He must have just taken the summer and just went home and ripped a million pucks into everything he could see. I mean, he's obviously a professional. He did not, but what a story for Darren Radish. Sorry. Got you off there. I just get way too excited when the bald-headed beauty comes up in any conversation, but back to Victor Hedman.
I feel like Radish has definitely been one of those guys that you grabbed on the wire and it changed your season.
My favorite pickup this year, 100%.
But yeah, dude's had elbow surgery. He had the groin issue flare up at the Olympics. Plus, who knows what else he's working through. But yeah, his time on ice taking a huge hit. You're basically looking at a third pairing defenseman who it might still get you some category coverage, but that's really it at this point.
Yeah, 5 points in his last 17. I know you said 4 in his last 15. I want to take it even further. 5 points in his last 17 games, only 26 shots. Doing the same thing I did with Pettersson. It's a little unfair to these players, but I'm going to extrapolate it across 82 games. That's a 24-point pace. If you're getting 24 points out of Victor Hedman on a season, your stomach's gonna turn because that's a terrible year. And I'm honestly surprised that the ownership is still this high, that he still is only available in 11% of leagues, because this is a trend we've seen all year. I know it's a lot of owners who probably spent that high ticket. They don't want to give up on their prize pick, but if you want to win a championship, you're likely not going to do it with Victor Hedman in your lineup this year. You could definitely get a better player out there. And definitely go searching. It's okay to let him go. It's okay to admit it's a lost year for Victor Hedman.
Yeah. And do you want to take the next one?
I will. I know we talked before. You mentioned that this one hurt you personally, so I'll give you a second to kind of breathe it out before I let you step in here. But Thomas Harley out in Dallas. I know a lot of us thought he would take that next step forward this year, especially take the spot or kind of take the role that Miro Heiskanen has played, and myself included. And so it kind of hurt to see what he's been doing. I would be holding on to Thomas Harley at this point. He has 11 points in his last 15 games. He's upped his shot totals to 33 shots during those 15 games, playing 23 and a half minutes. And I think that's pretty solid. I just don't believe there's any necessarily quote unquote free agent pickups that I think could produce like that right now. And Dallas's schedule, although it is not the greatest, you're still going to put him in because he's a D-man. You're usually not interchanging your D-man on a heavy night. I will say, though, there's definitely signs if you're in a smaller league. These are all, I guess we should have started with this, but it's all kind of depends on your league, of course. But if you are in a tighter, maybe 8-team league, you could definitely be looking to move on from this guy for someone who does get power play one time. So I'll let you do your part here on Thomas Harley.
And there we go. Yeah, that's really what it comes out. He still has some, but really, those people like myself probably spent the high draft capital and are kicking ourselves. But yeah, Dallas power play was one of the top 5 in the league on the year and since the Olympics. But he ain't on the unit that matters. But he's averaged about the same amount of time on ice last season. But power play shares down, obviously, as Miro has been healthy all season. His shooting percentage has come down closer to what we expect from a defenseman. And then, like his shooting percentage, down to 6.4 from like about 10 the last 2 seasons. Your average like offensive top D is like 6 to 9%. And he's down almost a full shot per 60. Like there was going to be a lot of regression with Miro back there.
Yeah, it's crazy the fantasy correlation with shots per 60 going down a full shot in a year. We're seeing it with Ovi. We're seeing it with Harley. It's almost like, put the puck on net more. You're going to produce more in fantasy. So I know as like we look at trends a lot on your show or on my show, I'm sure you do a lot on yours. And that's, as you have here, just a key indicator that someone is not going to produce quite as much as you'd like. Yeah. So Thomas Harley, I agree. If you're in a smaller league and if you can get a close to a point per game defenseman, they'll be out there and you could probably find them.
Yeah, and then next up, I got Jackson Lacombe, this was obviously affected by the John Carlson trade.
Mm-hmm.
He still might be worth holding on just to see if they, revert back to him. Who knows? But yeah, 14 of his 39 points this season have come on the power play. If he's no longer getting that top unit, that may not be enough to sustain him like for the rest of the way. His IPP is down about 10 points from last year, and power play IPP 20 points. Like he's already been less of a factor on the scoring, even though his power play share was up this season.
Yeah, we kind of watched him come out of the gate really slow, which definitely was not anything to be excited about because Jackson Lacombe was almost like a Thomas Harley, where it's like, I think this is a must draft this year. This is a guy who's going to take that step forward. And you're nailing it here with Jackson Lacombe because in the 2 games since John Carlson's return, his ice time has gone down significantly, almost 3 to 4 more minutes compared to the games before that. His first game, 21-25, his second game, 20-12. And if you're looking at fantasy, let's say effective D-man, most of them are playing more than 20 minutes per night. They're getting closer to that 25-minute mark. And it's very concerning. Across those 2 games, he has 1 shot on goal. Jackson Lacombe's game is putting the puck on net. He's not on the power play. He's not going to get shots on goal. If he's not out there in general, he's not going to get shots on goal. So I really like this one. I think it's one where you kind of have to keep an eye on what happens. It's easier said than done, but keep an eye on what happens with John Carlson here. I know Trouba's currently on the first unit. Every day when I put it in the lines at Daily Faceoff, I question and I triple check. I'm like, he can't still be on that unit, but he is. And so right now they're running, it's very odd, but they're running the 2 D-man top power play unit. One thing I will say in Anaheim, their units are kind of 1A, 1B. That second unit is very effective. It's still not your 1A unit, but it does have Seneca and it does have some other talent on it as well. But yeah, Jackson Lacombe, definitely someone who I think it's kind of a lot like Harley. It's a deep league drop if you are, but someone you want to keep an eye on because if it gets ugly here in the last, say, 18 games for him and he's playing only 20 minutes a night, getting a shot every other game, you're not going to want that on your roster. That's going to decimate you. So keep an eye here. I think this is a very good one to get ahead of.
Yeah. Do you want to grab the next one or?
Absolutely. This is a guy, a lot of my colleagues were very high on this guy. I know a lot of the general fantasy hockey community was high on him to start the year. And it's Shea Theodore out in Vegas. For some reason, Canada, who has the best players some of the best players in the world on the team, could see that Shea Theodore is a power play 1 defenseman. But The Vegas Golden Knights cannot see that. They proceed to go with their 5-forward system. It's working, sure. But for us fantasy guys, we wanted to see Shea in that spot because we know what he can do. He's a top 10 guy at that point. When he's not, he's not very effective. I was kind of ripping on Victor Hedman earlier for 5 points in his last 17. Let's break down Shea Theodore's last 18. 5 assists, 0 goals, 19 shots on goal in 18 games. That's just above 1 shot per game. That's a 23-point pace across 82 games. That is absolutely dreadful. There's guys in Colorado's 6th D-man, Sam Malinsky's crushing that number while playing maybe 14 minutes a night. So there's Shea Theodore, probably should have been dropped a long time ago. He's one of the higher names I have across the whole show we're doing here that you can drop. And I mean, not to pile more onto the guy, but he has been very just not effective as of late.
Yeah, that was talk about just a huge collapse from last year. Like he's down to just above like half a point per game player versus like I think it was like a 0.83 points per game last season.
Craziest part is if he steps on to power play 1 next year, we have to talk about him again as like a top.
Oh yeah, and well. That just means he'll be like incredible deep value because everyone's gonna be, I'm not taking a chance with that again. But yeah, that power play share down from 65-70% to 33%. That's a lot of missed points, and he really doesn't do enough like category coverage wise. I think he said about 2 shots a game. He has 1 hit all season. He's barely above 1 block. Like that's really he's not worth rostering really unless there's an injury there.
If it makes people feel better, he's on pace for 45 points this season. Woo! And at this moment in the NHL, there are 20 defensemen who have already hit 45 points. That's what he's on pace for across his 82 games. So if you're in a, say, 10-team league, that means that every team should technically have 2 guys who have more points than that already at this point. So I hate to, rag on a guy who clearly has let us down this year, but you let us down. So it feels good to rag on him.
I tried rostering him at least once. I think maybe while there's an injury, and even then he just did a lot for me.
I think we all had the period where someone early dropped and we're like, ooh, he's on waivers. He's gonna turn it around. And then you add him for 3 games and you're like, I got no hits, 1 shot on goal, and what's going on here? Yeah,
points or nothing. One of those kind of Tyson Berry-esque players. But yeah, this next one I feel like is a little bit of a hot take. Joel Eriksson Ek, who right now is actually day-to-day. So yeah, all the more reason like he could be expendable here. But I realize his value is a multi-cap monster, but there's just too much uncertainty with his deployment sometimes. And that's what we need this time of year, like that consistent floor. But yeah, this may also be dependent on your league, like center only. I see you have that too. Now he's out with a lower body injury. That could slow him down when he comes back.
Yep, absolutely. So I will admit, just in case you do get dogged for doing this name, this was my idea here with Joel Eriksson Ek. So if you guys get mad about it, come at me. That's completely fine. But Joel Eriksson Ek, I've loved what he's done for us so far, but Minnesota just has an absolutely terrible schedule for the next 3 weeks going forward. They have 11 games, which is the lowest across the NHL, tied for that. They also only have 1 light night. So that's why I'm kind of staying away from him. I know myself, usually centers are some of my stronger players on my roster. And if I have a heavy night, Joel Eriksson Ek's likely going to be that 4th, maybe 3rd or 4th center that I'm putting in there. I'm going to debate it a lot. And if you're at that point, I would rather get man games out of another player who's playing on light nights than maybe 1 or 2 games a week out of Joel Eriksson Ek. So again, it's also going to depend on the build of your roster. If you can get him in for all those games, might as well just keep him on out there. One thing you mentioned the lower body injury that had him miss last night. I'm worried because he plays closer to 20 minutes a night. He's a guy who eats those minutes, and a lower body injury, as you said, he can really slow a guy down. They need him for the playoffs. They're obviously still fighting for now, but the big thing is Joel Eriksson Ek is their playoff guy. So if these last couple of games, if they sit him a few times due to this injury, I wouldn't be surprised. You're stuck handcuffed again with a guy who can't go on your IR because he's now just day to day. So it's a little scary for me. Minnesota as a whole, it's more just about their schedule. I would have probably chewed up any team's center or we'll say mid center who would have had this schedule anyway. So thanks, Joel Eriksson Ek, for everything you've done, but I'm ready to kick you to the curb in a few leagues for sure.
And then this is another one of yours if you want to take it away.
Absolutely. It's Gabriel Velarde, and actually in my preseason must draft I had Gabriel Velarde as my must draft guy. I will admit I didn't look forward to week 21 to 24, and that's why we're bringing this up, because as we're focusing on bad schedules, Winnipeg does have 12 games across the 3 weeks, but they only have 2 light games across that time. Gabriel Velarde, kind of like Joel Eriksson-Ek, fantastic player. He's done well, but with heavier lineup days, you're probably going to put someone ahead of him on your depth chart, and if he's not going in, you can find value. We, as you mentioned, every show in the world is focusing on the good scheduled players, so you can find value off of those type of guys. Another thing with Velarde, 2 points last night. That was fantastic. I love to see it. But before that, he only had 2 points in his previous 8 games. He's a guy who runs hot and cold, and he's currently cold right now. So Winnipeg really sucks this year. Everything that's happening there kind of sucks. And I know unless you have Mark Scheifele, you're pretty pissed if you got anyone on Winnipeg this year. So while that's kind of happening, I'm just going to stay away. And then in these last couple of games, I just think there's better guys who can produce similar on light nights. They might not be even close to the same player, but you're going to get them in your lineup at least.
Yeah, I in one league I took Connor Hellebuck very early, kicking myself for it, because I'm like, no, I thought the year before was going to be when Winnipeg just mid all season. No, it was this season. I was early. But yeah, the only red flags I see with him are that he's converting at like 20% again, while taking just under 2 shots a game. But his IPP and power play IPP are about what they were last season. So we're pretty much seeing like this is him. But yeah, I kind of wish they just at this point give Isaac Rosen like some top 6 time, like see what he can do.
You brought him in, and they might in the next couple of games. And that is, I mean, why not do that? We're seeing Chicago now play Frank Nazar 20 minutes a night. It's like you have these shiny toys, these young shiny toys, we'll call them. Why not see what they can do? Put them in that position, like Toronto with Quinlan there. He's playing fantastic. 4 points in 5 games. That's kind of what you got to see. Season's over, but yeah, that might hurt guys like Gabriel Velarde who are kind of locked into those positions. But again, Velarde, I apologize. It's just your schedule that's making me say this. Otherwise, I wouldn't have brought it up.
And I think even in 10-team league I'm in, he's been on the wire a couple times. So I've been able to pluck him when they have the good schedule, toss him back out with not much to show for it.
Crazy too. He's flirting 30-30 again. Like he might even hit 70 this year. And he realistically could be on the wire because of the schedule. If he had a few light nights, definitely keep him. But
But next up, this is a guy who I've seen on the wire like a couple times, and I'm like, man, should I? But Ryan Nugent-Hopkins, 67%. Agreed. A better schedule could make him more palatable, even with the higher shooting percentage, 16.7 this year versus his career in the wing eligibility. But I mean, Draisaitl now out for the season. He is a little bit less of a big cast around him.
Yeah, no, I'm right there with you. It's Nugent-Hopkins is kind of, it's someone honestly online I get some of the most questions about, because there are a lot of people, as you mentioned, who just see him on the wire and are like, what a sexy name. But without really those pieces, including Draisaitl, obviously McDavid's there, without them completing the puzzle, he sometimes struggles, and that's kind of what we're seeing. He has 4 points in his last 9 games, as you mentioned, very attached to power play 1 there, and that power play 1 might take a big hit here. They currently have Vasily Podkolzin as the Draisaitl fill-in. I don't know if that's really going to even out and improve Nuge's game. Another thing here is Edmonton only has 2 light night games across the 3 weeks as well, and only 11 games. So it's if I'm going to talk about Velarde in this sense, I've got to talk about Ryan Nugent-Hopkins. And personally, if I had to choose between the two, I'd probably want Velarde in my lineup more. So I think, it's unfortunate, but when you get to these dire weeks and you're in a redraft league, you can let guys like this go for people with better schedules.
But yeah, and then this last one, I mean, this will probably end up being 2 guys, as we talked about before the show. But yeah, you want to take it away with our last guy here.
This one was pretty low hanging fruit. So I appreciate you letting me say this one, because at least maybe I'll get something right here. But it's Jesper Wallstedt, currently out in Minnesota. He was one of the better free agent pickups this season early on for goalies. It was awesome to see. He was coming through with his pedigree even better than we expected. And then kind of the second half has happened here, and he's just decimating fantasy teams. I admit I've been telling people to hold on to him because I expected a bounce back longer than I probably should have. But with the team like Minnesota in front of him, they're fantastic. Yet he's still struggling a lot. He has 2 wins in his last 10 appearances. He's posting an .880 save percentage during that time and a 3.40 goals against. If you're putting that in your fantasy lineup, you're basically punting goalies, and you're only getting about a start. It used to be every other game. Now it's every almost third game. So it's just not worth it. As I mentioned, low hanging fruit here. It's more just because that percentage needs to get below 54% there. If you're in a keeper league, obviously hold on to this guy, enjoy him for years to come. But for now, Minnesota's schedule too just doesn't line up very well. I feel like you'll have other goalies on those heavy days that you're going to want in than the guy who's posted an .880 and a 3.4 goals against average.
In a categories league, you're sunk for the week. I would say, I mean, if you were one of the lucky owners who picked him up at the beginning of the season, like, he got you this far, it's okay to let him go. Like,
absolutely.
And I think we're seeing the same thing with the other goalie that got us, we started talking about Brandon Bussey. It's their first season, both of them playing more than just a handful of NHL games. And just kind of a headcanon I've had with goalies is that, like, especially if you're new, you get like a little bit of a leash as long as you're pretty good, where no one knows how to shoot on you. So now I think at this point in the season, we might be seeing with Bussey and Wallstead, not just fatigue, but just everyone's got tape on them now. Like,
it gives me almost like baseball vibes when you see like you see a pitcher start out first month, he's just crushing everyone, and then the league kind of catches up to him. And same thing with hitters, they catch up. Guys get film, stuff happens. You figure out a goalie falls back into his net more. They start getting exposed. Now Carolina, that just continues to confuse me every night. It's such a fantastically built roster, and then they cannot get a goalie to stop basically less than 4 goals a game. So it's just wild. Anderson's, I think, out there in everyone's league, and he's the starter for a team that's going to be one of the higher teams in the NHL this year, and he's just crushing people's fantasy stats. So Bussey right now, I think he could definitely be mentioned in the same sentence as Wallstead. They're guys that, if they get hot for 2 games, maybe, but by that point your season might be done. It's unfortunate. We got to watch them flourish, but sometimes you gotta let them go, as you mentioned.
Yeah, they're a peacock, man. You gotta let them fly. But to wrap, just thank you so much for being on the show here. Anything you want to plug / where can we find you?
Yeah, I appreciate it. Thanks for having me. It's just great to, talk to the fantasy hockey community out there. You can find me, though, every Wednesday on Daily Faceoff's fantasy show. I'm their fantasy analyst over at Daily Faceoff. I also, you can find me throughout the website. I run the lines. I do the goalies there. So if you're ever looking at those, it's kind of how I stay on top of everything for fantasy here. As I'm watching basically every team warm up every morning, if anything fun happens, I tweet it out, because, you see someone go on line 1, you see someone move up to the top power play. I'm sitting there looking at it anyways. And I found, that's just interesting stuff to get out there. And I think that's kind of how we connected, which was great.
Yeah.
And, So I have a lot of people that go like, man, do you just not have a life? And I'm like, this is my job anyway. So I might as well put while I'm looking at the lines, I might as well just put who's moving up and out of lineups. And it's really good. It's a way to, if you're in a really active league, stay on top of it. If you need to find me, my Twitter is Beebs Bondy. I write articles over at Daily Faceoff too, fantasy related, but it's all about that. But yeah, basically anything kind of going through, I do a lot of grunt work for the website, but all the stuff that gets the lines out there, gets the goalies out there. It's fantastic. And I'm very lucky to interact with people like you and basically a lot of people that I imagine we have similar online. And it's great. It's funny too, because I don't know about you, but forever I was the weird fantasy kid, and now I found a lot of weird fantasy kids. So it's awesome just to share the kind of same passion. So I really appreciate you having me on and, letting me put myself out there. And I know continually we're going to keep trying to push fantasy hockey up in the world, because it's an awesome thing.
But yeah, I just remember, like, it was one of the first, I didn't realize that you did this like constantly, like the algo just put you in my path, and it was like, hey, like super low owned like power play guys. And I'm like, I put it on the show that night, because I'm like, guys, like, this is great value. Like, and then I realized, oh, he does this like all the time. I need to follow him.
That's awesome. No, I'm blushing over here. It's incredible. In a way, it's wild, because like basically if someone sneezes in the NHL, I put the news in, and it's awesome. I want to know that. But to the other sense, it sometimes you're like, did I need to know that this fourth liner in Boston is out of the lineup tonight. Maybe not, but that's okay. But no, it's fantastic. I love just kind of like putting everything in a situation where, say, if someone has to use the bathroom, all the work's there. They can get it in 10 minutes. Go back to your job, win your fantasy hockey league, and yeah, it's really good. But no, I know that I appreciate what you guys are doing for the community. I've talked to a lot of people I know, and they listen to your show. They love it. So it's been really good connecting. Yeah.
It's nice to hear. But yeah, let me like cue up that outro music. But
awesome.
Saturday, same time, same bat channel, and then Sunday for the for next week's script, of course. But yeah, take care of yourselves and each other.
Thank you so much.